Hello and welcome. I am your Overwatch caster Hotohori, and I am here bringing you my personal OWL power rankings after week 1. I am going to be doing a weekly video on who I think are the best and the worst of the Overwatch League. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Number 12. I have the Shanghai Dragons. Now, Shanghai did not necessarily look very well in the Overwatch League. Now, they lost one of their matches basically in 35 minutes, and they just didn't look impressive and mesh as a team at all. So it's going to be one of those things in which Shanghai has to sort of step it up. They did win one match, did lose 3-1 in their second match of the weekend, but I think overall, I think everybody agrees that Shanghai is probably going to be, for the sportic time being, going to be the bottom dweller with regards to the Overwatch League. At number 11, it is the San Francisco Shock. Now, San Francisco has a couple big names on their roster. IDDQD, who did not even play this weekend, but they also have a couple underage players that might figure into later on in the season with regards to Super and Sinatra. But right now, as a team, San Francisco, not very impressive at all. So that's why I have them at number 11. At number 10, and it's a surprise to some, it will be the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, the Gladiators got handed to them with regards to their match at the end against Lunatic High, aka the Soul Dynasty. But to me, the Gladiators have a couple of great DPS with regards to Surefour and everybody, the hydration, a couple people are there on the roster too, but honestly I just don't see it from the Gladiators. There's this team owned by Stan Kroenke. It's one of those teams that are just investing in the Overwatch League and esports for the first time, so I think it's going to take them a while to sort of mesh and sort of get together. So I figure as impressiveness goes, I don't see the Gladiators being up there with the elites of the Overwatch League. Number 9. Now, this might be surprised that they're not actually in the bottom 3. It's the Florida Mayhem. Now, the Florida Mayhem, with regards to as a team, are the most shorthanded team in all of the Overwatch League. They only have 6 players. They are made up of the old Misfits team that placed second in the European Championships, but they just have not looked very good at all on land in most cases. Now, they did give one of the Korean teams this weekend a run for their money, but overall it looks like as it goes on, they're just sort of slowly studying improving and not necessarily sort of improving right away. They did win one round, I think it was on Junkertown, but overall, I think they're going to be occupying the bottom until they can get whatever it is that's causing their team issues fixed. They have an excellent DPS in Tivik. They do have a transitional tank in Swoosh who's played every role, but I just don't think the Mayhem, until they get an additional player, or players in this particular case, are going to do very, very well. At number 7, we have at number 8, we have the Boston Uprising. Now, Boston was predicted to be the worst team in the Overwatch League, and they're actually surprising a good number of people with the fact that their overall team gameplay is actually very, very good. Now, that team gameplay and mechanical skill sort of, you can out mechanical skill people if you have good team gameplay, but it looks like by their roster, they do have good mechanics, and if they can just keep working on their teamwork, they're going to surprise a couple teams. They did win one game over the weekend, and it's going to be one of those things in which I think Boston is going to be a wild card team to a lot of people there. I'm liking their DPS combination. I like mistakes on their team, but it's going to be a tough haul for Boston to overcome anybody in the top 7. And as we get to number 7, this is going to be a disappointing pick to a lot of people. It's the Houston Outlaws. The Houston Outlaws were predicted to possibly be a top 5 team made up of mostly players from Team USA. You have Jake, you have Raucus, you have Cool Matt. The problem is the Outlaws can't get a win. They looked especially bad in their match on over the weekend on Friday. So the Outlaws have some fixing to do with regards to their squad, but they do have potential, and it's going to be one of those things that's going to be it's going to be nice to see what they can do with regards to fixing up their teamwork. Because remember, this is week one, so there's a lot of fixing that can be done, and it's okay if you lose a couple of matches in the very beginning. At number 6, we have the Philadelphia Fusion. The Fusion now was an unknown quantity going into the Overwatch League. Now, this team especially is owned by Comcast, so that's one of the big negatives going up against them. But really, what it was is that they just had no idea on who was actually going to play for the Fusion. They have all of these players signed, but they really never played with each other. So it's going to be one of those issues in which to see whether or not the Philadelphia Fusion can sort of mesh and become a team that can actually sort of power through. They do have great DPS in Carpe and Shadowburn, so hopefully this sort of in part phase lineup from the old Overwatch levels would actually going to transition well, and hopefully Philadelphia can sort of break and stay up there with the elites and not get rolled. At number 5, we have the Dallas Fuel. Now, this is a very, very disappointing result for Dallas. They did not win a game over the weekend, but arguably their match with the Seoul Dynasty on the first day was probably one of the greatest matches of Overwatch that anybody has ever seen. Now, they ended up losing to the Los Angeles Valiant on day 2 of week 1, but it looked like they were having some communication issues. There were some tweets that were coming out from Effect and some of the other team members that were saying that they were a little unclear with regards to how their shot calling was happening. They are the fan favorite going in to the Overwatch League, so like predominant U.S. audience are in love with the Dallas Fuel. But the Dallas Fuel and the Houston Outlaws could not bring a wing to Texas. So as we go into week 2, we're going to hopefully see some adjustment from Dallas, and we're going to see if whether or not they can sort of right the ship relatively quickly and be that sort of top 5, top 4 team that everybody expects them to be. At number 4, I am putting in the Los Angeles Valiant. Now, the Valiant surprised the Fuel with a win over the weekend, but this is more or less of the pickups that the Valiant did during the offseason, picking up the remnants of Rogue. They picked up 2 members, Unko and Soon, who were absolutely outstanding. The Valiant really, on the backs of those 2, were really doing it, and they basically pushed Fuel to a 3-0 win. And it's one of those things in which, like, the Valiant going into it, we really didn't know, but Noah Winston, owner of Immortals and owner of the Valiant, is an experienced esports owner, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And the Valiant, who in Contenders looked awful as Immortals, look very, very good with a revamped lineup, adding in a couple Koreans and adding in the remnants, the 2 players from Rogue, and it's just super, super good for them, and they've meshed very, very well. He actually bought a house in downtown LA for where the Valiant sort of live together and sort of mesh together, and it's been very, very good for the Valiant so far. At number 3, and I don't think this is unexpected, the top 3, of course, is not going to be one of those things that's going to be unexpected to everyone. I am actually putting New York Excelsior. Now, the top 3 you could literally shuffle between any of them. They're all that good, but the Excelsior made up of the lineup from LW Blue look very, very good. Their star substitute Pine in their second match on the weekend had a ridiculous 6 kill, and it just goes to show that this team has so much potential behind it. And they even have an underage player in Flower who hasn't even been on the field yet, who everybody knows is going to be one of the top DPS of this league. Excelsior are no slouches, though, with Sabiobi and Jack of all trades Libero at DPS that are just doing so well. But the unrated star that everybody needs to know from the Excelsior is Jonak. Jonak is ridiculous. He is the Zenyatta off healer that actually is just one of the greatest Zenyatas I've ever seen play. He was out healing everyone, and his damage boost, his damage contribution was number 1 on his team, outpacing the DPS, which is insane. So as we get to the top two, I don't think it's going to be any surprise who number two is going to be. It is the London Spitfire. They get the number two position in my week's Overwatch Power Rankings, and it's the Spitfire, made up of two teams, uh, GC Busan and Kongju Pantera. They have GC Busan were the last Apex winners of Apex Season 4, but it was one of those things in which they had actually been signed second after Cloud9 bought Kongdu, and there were some issues possibly incorporating the team members in, but it looks like they've sort of started to mesh really well. They've won both of their matches 3-1, and it seems to be like a running thing in which all three Korean teams have issues on the first map, but then all of a sudden adapt and therefore are able to just sort of power through. London is sort of powered by their DPS, uh, coming from Kongju Pantera, and they look very, very good, and they're probably going to be one of the favorites to sort of go through and possibly make the finals of the Overwatch League. And at no surprise, at number one, it is the Seoul Dynasty. Now, made up of the remnants of Lunatic High from Korea, they are from top to bottom one of the, if not the best team in the Overwatch League, and they're probably going to maintain the spot within 1 and 2 for a while until either some of the teams from behind have a tendency to pick up, or if some of the teams, if their sort of form sort of degrades, because it's been known to happen where they'll lose a match here and there where they're going to have substitutes, but you can go up and down the list, and the Seoul Dynasty are just stacked. You have Toby and Ryu Hong being rated as probably the most number one support in the world. You're looking at their DPS and their pickup of Fleta. And DPS was one of those things in which old Lunatic High, had serious issues with, where their old DPS, Eska, was basically a meme on Twitch. But with Fleta, that's no meme. That's just death incarnate. He is amazing on their DPS, and then they rotate in a player like Munchkin who will just play off of Fleta. The joke is that if you focus on one, the supports will get you, and if you focus on the supports, the DPS will get you. So it's a crazy thing. And then their tank lineup is also insane, with Zumba and Miro basically being two of the best tanks in the game, Zumba being one of the best off tanks in the game, and Miro being one of the best Winstons in the game. He's not that great of a Reinhardt, but the thing about it is with supports and DPS the way they are, Miro doesn't have to be. And he's also one of the older players on the team at 25, if I remember right. So, it's nice to have a player like that who's slow and steady and is able to sort of carry you through. I think Jaehong is the oldest at 26. So, therefore, this is a very experienced team and will probably be occupying the top spots of the Overwatch League from years to come. But I am your caster, Hotohori. Thank you for watching my Overwatch Week 1 Power Rankings. I will see you next time.